Well, hello! Thank you for joining me. In part 2 of this build series, we'll be delving into the process of ascertaining real-life dimensions of the Portal 2 turret. It may be a surprise to some, but this is in fact 1-to-1 scale. Once complete and standing on its own legs, it'll be 1.48 meters tall, that's 4 feet 10 inches for our Imperial friends. I will also be showcasing the mechanical features in 3D as well as the 3D modeling detail. So let's sit back, relax, and jump into Valve's Portal 2 to start the measuring process.
So now that we're in the game, we can measure how high this portal turret is. I'm just going to go draw cross 0, 0, 0, which will draw across at the origin of the world, which happens to be on this level over here. I'm going to grab this portal turret and place it right over it as best I can. It's really annoying because it has 3 legs and the egg is in the off center. It's good enough. And if I do draw cross and in the z-axis, which is the up, the best way to do it is just hit random number, 40. There you go, it's 40 units is up here. Keep going, 50. It's up there. Keep going, 60. Now that is closer, but it's still too high. So I'm going to go 58. 58 is a bit too low. Yep, it's too low. 58.5. Now I know this because I've measured it before. Now to clear all those X's, I think you could only spawn like 4 or 5 X's at a time. So I'm just going to spam this like multiple times. Voila. And then do 1, 0, 0, 0 back on the ground. Now I could even draw a line between these 2 points by draw a line. One is at 0, 0, 0 and one is at 0, 0, 5.8. Sorry, 58.5. There you go. Now we got a line in between these two. I'll try to line it a little bit better. Again, it's pretty hard. Ooh, it's good.
Wow.
It's perfect. Look at that. Zoom in. So we can conclude that in the game, this is 58.5 units high. Now I spoke to G. Barnett, the creator of Portal, and he did mention the units in the game are inches. So this is just 58.5 inches. If we look at, go to third person. Oh, SV_cheats1, third person. You can see how big it actually is. Oh no! It actually is. Oh no! It's gone! Oh god, no! You can see how big that turret is. Now everyone building this turret at like 1.2, 1.1 meters tall, it's about 30% off the actual scale. Now let's measure how high shell is. If we go and type in draw cross 0, no, let's make that 100 inches or whatever to the right, and then 0 and then 0. There you go, there's a cross for me to stand on. If I do the same thing, but instead, now I've measured her before, I'm just gonna go straight to it. She's 71 inches high. And there you go. It's a bit hard to tell, but you know, she's around the 70 inches high. And that concludes that. So the units are in inches in the game, and we'll just jump into the 3D software and see what we get. So now that we're in Maya, we could import the files in, and what we get is 57.8 inches, or units for now, let's just presume units, to the top of the egg, and 70.7 units to the top of Shell's head. Now this is how the files came in. Maya is set up in centimeters for me, so technically she's just 70.7 centimeters high. That is clearly too short, and we do know that the game models are actually inches, and for these to correlate with the game units, that's great. We just need to scale this up or convert the units to centimeters. So to do that, I'm just gonna quickly grab my groups and scale them up by 2.54, and now what we end up with is shell to the top of her head, she's 179, and the egg is 147. So again, like I said, other people building this full scale, they're building it around 1.1 meters tall, which, if you look at it, just going to pull this down to 1.1, which is pretty small, even based on shell. Like if shell is 1.8 and they have that as 1.1, that's pretty small. And you might be saying, yeah, there's no way she's 1.8 meters tall. The actress who played the character isn't that tall, but it's a game. That's generally how high they have it. They even have the eyesight is around 1.72. So now we could compare the model. Now if we look at the game model next to my model, you can see they're pretty much identical. And that's obviously because I just trace it. And if I place it roughly in the same place, you'll notice that the legs are different. And that is because the game model, when the doors open, they actually clip through the legs over here. And not only that, when it actually aims left and right, up and down, they clip through the body as well, at the back, and even the leg at the back. Now I had the same issue, so I had to move my legs forward, and clear that door. If I move that back away. Now, if we ignore what's happening here, and just look at this door here, you'll notice when the turret opens, that's actually static, so that's actually how it is in the game. If you hide this shell, you'll notice that when it closes, it actually penetrates through the internals. And if you have both of them doing that, you literally have nothing in between to actually articulate and aim left and right. Yeah. So to solve that issue, I had to retract the gun barrels in, which is fine because that's what the actual game does, but then the gun housing into the door, and you could see that there, and that way, while pushing some of these guys in, it gives you enough space to close without clipping through any geometry. This is the gun housing feeder. We could ignore that for now. But yeah, so that was my solution to this problem, and it was just a matter of figuring out how best to implement it, what I needed to push away from the center, while trying to keep as much detail as possible, which is like these guys. And we could just take a look at that right now. Let's look into the gears and the motors of this portal turret. First, we'll take a look at the way the doors open. I'll just scrub through. So you can see how it's got a 3-piece telescoping system, and then the barrels have a rack and pinion system to pull them out, and also when it shoots, they will be going in and out just like the game. Now if you hide this door and hide these cylinders, keep that guy, we'll see the rack and pinion which this mode is driving, opening and closing the telescoping system. So it's closed and it's open. And then to look at it, for it to go left and right, you have this motor driving that axis. And then to look up and down, you have this motor. For the zoom out. Now let's compare the details between my model and the game model. You can see I try to keep, so if I just actually scale this, I'll cheat it a little, just scale it so you guys can see the piping. So that pipe here and there, you got these 3 pipes, which equate to these 3 here. There's another pipe here and another pipe there. Now this pipe I had to push on the side of that piece of metal. In the game, that metal actually holds up the spinning thing, so that was like somewhere like this, which means I cannot close the door on it all the way. You could see that this blue thing here is bigger in mine because I had to have space for the motors and the gears and all the mechanisms, so I had to shove things around to make it functional, but all in all it does look pretty close to the game model. So you got these details here, that's that there for me. And now if we compare the doors, for example, if we look at the textures, you'll see there's a lot of detail, which is great. That's what's awesome about game models. You don't have to have a lot of polygons to show great detail. And that actually was pretty good for me because I basically just traced these shapes, and they're not organic, they're just rectangles, chamfered edges and all that stuff. Traced them in Rhino and just pretty much extruded them and subtracted them and booleaned them from the actual simple D shape here. And that leaves me with this heavy duty piece of geo. Same goes for the rivets looking things, the screws, the holes, the textures on the barrel. I had that added in, so the screws and whatnot. And this panel with the screws in is added in. Now my cylinder here, my telescopic section, is bigger than the game, so that's because just it really needs to hold a lot of weight, so I had to use that. And yeah, the rivet details here are present. So essentially it's just a high-res model of the game. So all that, you know, it looks awesome, but it's just a flat 2D texture. But you know, trace these lines out, project them on, and you get the same thing. Turn off textures. Nothing. Thank you all for dropping by. Hope you enjoyed part 2 of the series. If you've missed part 1, be sure to check it out because it's got this animation with the original soundtrack and the sound effects from Portal playing through it. In part 3 of the series, I'll go over 3D printing and the gluing process that I've used. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep up to date. I'm aiming for 200 subscribers, by the way. If you also would like to support this project, please visit my Patreon, patreon.com/JNVisuals. I would very much appreciate your help. Thank you and have a good one. Until next time.